He turned his attention back to the road. The leafless trees yielded to an open field of brown grass, and the road eased up a gentle slope. The Chevy ambled up the incline, and the Reverend scanned the sky ahead. The wind whipped at the clouds like tattered bedsheets flailing on a clothesline. Then it appeared, almost imperceptibly, a black point on the horizon. It seemed to grow right out of the hill as he neared, the tip angling out to the sides to form a rectangular shape that ended in a point. A shudder ran through him as he recognized the steeple of the Salem church rising out of the ground like an old weather-beaten tombstone, abandoned on some forgotten prairie from a time long past. Hey, hello everybody, fans of reading and writing, lovers of the dark and mysterious. Welcome to another exciting, educational, and entertaining episode of The Writing Lair. Welcome you all back. It's been a little while. For those of you first joining us, for those of you joining us for the first time, this is The Writing Lair. My name is Brady Longmore. I'm an indie author. I have 4 books currently published out there. I am currently working on book number 5, hoping to publish it very soon. This is The Writing Lair. I'd like to just extend a thank you out to those who are already subscribed and support this channel. Welcome back. Your presence is greatly appreciated, and your viewership. For those of you who are just stumbling upon this, I am an author. I like to write horror and adventure and mysterious kind of stuff. I'm into UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, that kind of stuff. This YouTube channel is about reading. I'll discuss reading and writing, writing tips, publishing tips, and I also like to sprinkle in a dash of a ghost story here and there, or a mystery, or talk about UFOs or something once in a while. So if that sounds like it's something that is up your alley, then we are probably kindred spirits, and you belong here in the Writing Lair with me. So I encourage you, invite you, and welcome you to click that subscribe button, click that like button, and help support a struggling artist. And with that, today's episode, I am going to talk about a true kind of a ghost story, a true scary story that happened to my dad. So, without any further ado, let's get this show on the road. Welcome back to the Writing Lair. That does look kind of creepy, doesn't it? Ooh, great effect. What if I put my head down anyway? True ghost story here. True scary story. This story, and I'm not going to talk like this the whole time. Let me turn on my lights again. This is ridiculous. I can't do this the whole time, but hey, that looks kind of cool. I'm a floating head in space. Kind of. Yes, there we go. Can I tell you the whole story like this? All right. Let's get the lights back on, shall we? All right. Welcome back. Enough fooling around. So this story, I'm gonna get serious here because this is serious. This is a true ghost story. Just want to tell this story. This happened to my dad. I grew up hearing this story many times. It's fairly creepy, and the reason you heard me reading that at the beginning of the video, I was actually reading an excerpt from my first novel, The Summoning, and yeah, that's it. This reverse camera stuff. That scene, there's a scene in here that was totally inspired by this story that I've heard from my dad over the years. So I wanted to share that with you. And those of you who have read my blog will know that have probably my defunct blog. I got a bug flying around here. Anyway, sorry if I look a little rough. I've been on a lake or on a river all day. I've been sitting in a kayak most of the day. And I just got home and thought, let's do a quick Writing Lair episode. But anyway, this story is in my blog that I used to write. I haven't written it in a while. Kind of abandoned it, really. It's just kind of out there in the ether of the internet. But if you want to go check it out, it's www.bradywriting.blogspot.com. But this story's on there. In fact, I think it's the last story I wrote. But let's just dive right into the story, shall we? Because I take up so much time doing these. Okay. So my dad is from Minnesota. And when he got old enough to go to college, he decided to come on out to Idaho, which is where I live now, to go to school at a college in eastern Idaho called Ricks College. It's in a little town called Rexburg. This was 1967, and he was pursuing a degree in fine arts so he could chase his dream of becoming an artist, which he did become. Anyway, so long story short, he comes out to school. He's going to school one day, and Rexburg is, especially in the 60s, was just this little town. Think of the town on like Footloose or something. Little farming community, right at the kind of at the edge of Yellowstone. No, not too far from like Yellowstone Park. So it's a farming community, fertile fields, hills and mountains in the distance, and a picturesque little town. And he's coming to school at this little college, which it's now BYU Idaho. Anyway, one day he's going to his classes, and he's got this professor, I guess it's college, professor, teaching the class, and he's kind of stopped in the middle of his lecture or whatever he was teaching, and he just stopped, and he said, I'm feeling kind of, I'm feeling an impression, or I'm feeling like compelled to warn you kids about something. I'll mess with my light here a little bit more. Okay. And he proceeded to tell this story. And he said, last night, a friend of the family called and asked me to help search for their teenage daughter who had gone missing. She hadn't come home. It was late. And she was past her curfew. And, of course, this was before cell phones and tracking and that kind of stuff for parents. But so he said, we went and searched all night for these 3 kids that were missing. 3 teenage kids. They went out, we thought they'd gone out for ice cream or something. They never came home. And so this group of people are searching and calling, and have you seen, the typical search for these kids that are missing? And he said that, we finally thought, well, maybe they're out at the old Salem church. Now, Salem is an area, it's not even really a town. I guess it's north of Rexburg. It's a really kind of a rural little area with some houses and kind of connected to the area, and it's known as Salem. Salem, how convenient, right? So there's this old church house out there that was abandoned. Is no longer in use and had fallen to disrepair. It was from the 1800s, and he said we thought, well, maybe they're out there at the old church house, because they knew that the kids from the area liked to go out there and mess around. It was a cool old building. You could, if you knew what you were doing, you could obtain entry. The front doors were locked and stuff, but if you knew what you were doing, you could get in there. And I guess there was, probably graffiti. There was graffiti on the walls inside. Kids would go in there and tell ghost stories. Who knows what? I imagine. Kids, just think of a bunch of teenagers in an abandoned building. And he said, we thought, well, maybe they're actually out at the old church house. We hadn't looked there yet, so a group of men that were searching drove out to the old Salem church house, which was out in the country on this country road out there. And they got to the church, and sure enough, these three kids, these three girls, were on the front steps of the church, and he said they were babbling and incoherent and almost a catatonic. One of them was catatonic, and as if something really, really horrible had happened to them. And the people took these three girls right away, and they took them home. They tried to comfort them, and they were found, but they were completely, almost out of their minds with fear. And he didn't elaborate what had happened, if he even knew. But his next words to the class, that my dad's sitting in this class, and his next words to the class were, "Don't go out there and mess around in that building. There's something not right about that place. There's an evil presence or something going on out there. You should stay away from that building. I know you all like to go out there. I know it's a fun kind of hangout, but I feel like I felt something there, and you shouldn't go out there." And that was his warning. Now, I'm sure he had every good intention, but if you're someone, my dad, first thing he thought is, he's from out of town. He's from another state. Where's this place? How do I get there? So he asked around about it, and found out from kids who were local to the area that this Salem church was an old church that was built by the early Mormon settlers in the area, and it was built in the 1800s, like 1880s, I think. And it was this brick, like limestone blocks, built out of limestone blocks. This pretty neat old building. It even had a belfry with a tower. But it had fallen into disrepair, and the church had sold it. The LDS Mormon church was no longer using it, and they'd sold it to somebody, and it was just, the roof was caving, and kids are going in there and playing around. It was just your typical abandoned building at this point. And my dad got directions, and so one day, this is in the fall of 1967, he jumps in his 1956 Chevy Nomad by himself and decides, I'm going to go check this out. So it was late afternoon, the classes were out, and he heads on out, takes the directions, and heads out there to this old church. And in his words, he got there and was immediately impressed by the building. He just thought it was cool, and as an artist and studying how to paint watercolors and oil paints and stuff, he's immediately looking at this and thinking, God, I should paint this building as a project or something for one of my art classes. This is a cool building. It's kind of the old Gothic structure, He thought it looked cool. Anyway, he's out there, and he decides, I'm going to go in. Time to go inside. He was a little nervous, and but he'd driven out here, and he had determined he's gonna check this place out. So he, I guess he walked up, and I'm trying to just remember how my dad worded it to me when he's told the story to me many times. The main front doors, you walk up some steps, and the main front doors are locked. And he looks to his side, looks to the left, and there's a door. There's like a kind of a separate part of the building, a tower with a little door down at ground level, and it looks like it's ajar. So he goes and tries that, and sure enough, he's able to kind of get this door open. It's scraping on the ground, and he finally is able to just kind of squeeze in there, and then he looks up, and basically it's just this long, dark kind of narrow staircase leading up, and he was immediately like, kind of unnerved. He's by himself. I would be the same, but he's determined to continue this investigation. So he starts hiking up these stairs, and he's taking the stairs nice and slow, and his heart's starting to beat as he's getting up the stairs, and the stairs are creaking, and the staircase doesn't seem all that safe. He finally, it seems like forever, and he finally gets to the top of this stairs, and just to his right, at the top of the stairs to his right, is a door, and that's the only way to go. It's just stairs, landing, door to the right. And the door it's this old door, and it's open a crack. He's about 8 inches, 6-8 inches. It's just sitting there open. And when he first stepped up to the top of the stairs, he scared like a flock of pigeons or something. On the other side of that door was a room, and he heard these birds just, explode up and fly and hitting the rafters and escaping through the various holes in the roof. And he said that alone gave him a heart attack. An explosion of birds. Not everyone's experienced it, but if you ever had a bird in front of you blow up and take off, gives you a jump. And he sat there for a minute and just let his heart settle back down and thought, okay. And he kind of peeked through the door to see what he could see through that crack, and he said he could see like furniture, maybe like some chairs and maybe some benches. He thought he saw even like a raised platform, like maybe there was a little stage in there. It was kind of a big room, and he thought, interesting. So he's like, well, let's go in and have a look. And as he's reaching for the doorknob to pull the door open a little bit more, right as his hand is about to close over the doorknob, the door shuts by itself. Bam. And he says it didn't slam shut. It didn't creak shut. He said it was almost the same, like medium force, as if a person on the other side had just shut the door. And there was no wind. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't have been a draft. I'm not saying it couldn't have been the shifting of the building or some natural explanation, but come on. Come on, we're in the writing lair. The writing lair is a safe space for believers. So the door just shuts by itself before he could grab the doorknob. And the timing and everything. And he said he just about passed out from fear. His words were, I don't remember my feet even touching one step on my way out of that, down those stairs. And the next thing he knows, he's in his car driving down the road as fast as that little Chevy Nomad would go, getting away from that building. And he was convinced that someone or something was on the other side of that door. Maybe it was a person. Maybe there was a homeless person or something living up there. Who knows? But he is convinced, because of the way it happened. It wasn't like a draft of wind blew. It was like someone knew he was there and someone wanted him gone. And so they just went clunk and shut that door so that he couldn't come in. And I'm getting little goosebumps right now thinking about it. And he got the heck out of there. And to this day, he never went back. It scared him really, really good. And I wouldn't go back either if I was convinced that someone had been there. The three teenagers, he was told, and now I caught some flack about this from someone when I wrote about this on my blog. But let me just say, I am just telling the story through the experience of another person. Okay, I haven't researched this. I haven't gone to the library and looked up a bunch of crap. This is just the writing lair where we tell stories. Okay, so this is the perspective. This is the memory. This is a man who's now in his 70s, and we're talking about a memory he had when he was 18. So, but he said one of the girls ended up having to be institutionalized, and to this day, he never heard what the experience was that scared them so bad. And so I speculate, the way I am with my imagination is, did they go in there and with plans to play with like a Ouija board or to hold some kind of seance or something, and they ended up opening a door or opening themselves up to something that they weren't prepared for? That in my worldview, that's certainly a possibility. Or was there? Did they encounter a bad person? Was there an individual that saw 3 girls going into a building and decided to go in there too? To me, that's even more terrifying if you want to know the truth. So did they have a really nasty, horrifying encounter with an actual person? Some vagrant, some drifter moving through town? That's pretty terrifying to think of too. I don't know what happened. I don't know what it was. And I don't know what was at the top of those stairs and shut that door. The old Salem church is no longer there. It got torn down several years ago. It just fell into such a state of disrepair. It was torn down and everything hauled away. So we'll never know any more about the place. But that's a story that I've grown up with. I've heard it many times. It's helped reinforce my imagination quite a bit, and I paid homage to it in my book, The Summoning. I had to, and so those of you who have read The Summoning and remember the old Salem, I even called it the Salem Church in the book. The old Salem Church in The Summoning, that's where it comes from. It's based on a kind of a real thing. So a little Easter egg there for you people who have read my book, The Summoning. Anyway, guys, that's my scary story for this episode, for this week of The Writing Lair. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little bit of a, hey, come on. I thought it was creepy. If you liked the story, you enjoyed it, please do me a favor. Click the like button. If you are here for the first time and you liked what you just heard, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Help me out. Help me grow this channel. Before I leave, I'm going to leave you, before we end the show, the episode. I always try to remember to do a book recommendation. So this week's book recommendation is called Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. If you are a fan of The Shining, remember The Shining movie? If you've read The Shining, which I suggest reading The Shining. The movie's great, but the book's always better, right? So read the book, but even if you haven't read the book, the Dr. Sleep, and it's been made into a movie as well. The movie's pretty good, but it's not. I remember watching the movie and thinking, how does anyone who hasn't read the book even understand what's going on here? But remember in The Shining, the little boy that could shine, that had the shine, the kid on the big wheel, riding his big wheel through the hotel. That's Danny Torrance, and Dr. Sleep picks up 20 years later or something, 20, 30 years. Danny's an adult now. He's all grown up, and he still has the shine. He can. Anyway, it's basically the sequel to The Shining. I had no idea till I started reading it. I just thought, Stephen King's got a new book out called Dr. Sleep. I'll give it a try. I start reading it, and I start realizing this is The Shining Part 2. It's really good, really well written, really well done. It's typical, it's Stephen King fare. If you're already a fan of Stephen King, you will like this book. If you like The Shining, and it's a great sequel and to The Shining. So Doctor Sleep by Stephen King. Check it out. It's good and creepy. It's kind of brutal. So reader beware. There's a scene in it that still gives me like the willies. Like it's got, so beware. It is got some brutality in it. So like I said, typical Stephen King. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Again, like and subscribe if you liked what you saw today, and if you're a new member, welcome, and you're much appreciated. I appreciate all the support and I get from you guys, and everything's going good here. Still working away. Sorry, I wish I was telling you I was about to publish. I'm about 93% done. Okay, according to my calculations. So, a new book of mine will be coming out shortly, hopefully. Okay, guys. Thanks again. Until the next episode, I wish you all happy reading.
Come and play with us. Come and play with us, Danny.